Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamley. Many of their names are not familiar to most, but they are unsung journalistic trailblazers, African-American female journalists who are modern-day truth tellers. They integrated print and broadcast newsrooms across the country post the 60s civil rights movement. Up next on Another View, we talk with journalist and author Bonnie Newman Davis about her new book, Truth Tellers: The Power and Presence of Black Journalists Since 1960. Spoiler alert, someone from right here in Hampton Roads is featured. But first, you know what time it is. It's time to show your support for what you love. Another View. It's our spring membership drive, and we need to hear from you. Isn't that right, Lisa Godley? She's the Another View producer, and Dr. Barry Graham, who is the telephone producer extraordinaire.
I love that title.
You like that title?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. And listen, Another View listeners, we have a $2,000 challenge in this hour. So if you call between now and 1 o'clock, your contribution to WHRO Public Media will be matched dollar for dollar up to $2,000. So let's get the phones ringing. 1-800-940-7170.
You know, Barbara, we love this show, and we love bringing it to our listeners each and every week. And this is your opportunity as a listener to support what you love. You're going to hear two different phone numbers throughout this hour, but the pledge phone number, make sure you get that one right. Yes. And contribute to support what you love, because we want to continue to bring this show to you each and every week.
So, Barry, you know, I'm going to call you out because you are, first of all, you're the minority on our staff.
Yes,
because you're the only male.
I'm the only male, but I wear that title very proudly. I'm surrounded by wonderful producers, wonderful people who put so much creative energy into the program.
So tell us why you like Another View, though.
You know, it's no secret that I was a former school teacher before I came to work here, and I love learning. I love the aspect of learning new things and looking at things from a different perspective, and that's what this program allows me to do. It allows me to expand my horizon and look at things from a different perspective and learn and grow and listen to those conversations that I think, Barbara and Lisa and everybody, that I think are so important to a healthy community. That's why I love Another View, and I love what happens on this program each week.
Oh, thank you. He's so one of sweet. He's one of our biggest fans. We love it. Hey, and guess what, listeners? We have some swag. We have Another View swag.
Nice.
Even though we know that you give because you love the show and you love the information that Lisa is the producer, and myself and Jordan, Christy, who is our audio engineer, and everyone who is involved in this broadcast bring you on a weekly basis. But if you would like a gift, we do have a couple of things. Now, we always talk about sustaining members, and being a sustainer means that you give us your credit card or your bank account information, and we take out the amount you tell us on a monthly basis until you tell us to stop. It's that easy. But if you would like an Another View coffee mug, it's really nice. It's a deep blue with our logo on it. You can make a one-time gift of $60, or you can become a sustaining member at $5 a month. Now, we also have an Another View tumbler with a lid. It's very cool. It will stand out, and people will ask you, where did you get that? And you can give a one-time gift of $110 or $9 as a sustaining member. And then we have a T-shirt that says Black Lives Have Always Mattered, which we came out with our 10th anniversary.
That's right. I have one of those.
And I have one. I'm wearing it today, as a matter of fact. So for a one-time gift of $120 or $10 per month, you can have that T-shirt. Or if you want the sweatshirt, that's $180 for a one-time gift, or $15 a month as a sustaining member. But we know you love the show. Whatever works for your budget, we really want to hear from you in this hour. 1-800-9 1-800-940-7170. I'll say it again, 1-800-940-7170. Or you can go online to whro.org and make your pledge of support there.
That's right. This is your opportunity to support what you love. You know, nobody does it like this. You can look all over the country and you won't find another view like Another View. So this is your chance to support what you love. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Become a part of the family. There's a different feeling that you get when you take a little bit of ownership when you become a member. So don't let this opportunity pass you by.
Absolutely. And we would love to hear from you. You know, Barry, when I'm out and about, people say to me all the time, you know, y'all tackle some pretty tough subjects. You don't shy away. And we don't, do we?
Not at all.
Oh, I guess Barry left us anyway.
I think he might have.
Okay. Well, in any case, 1-800-940-7170. That's the number to call to join our conversation. We really hope that you'll hear from us. And now we're getting ready to start Another View in just about 10 seconds. And you want to stay tuned for Bonnie Newman Davis and as we talk about her new book. Give us a call. Go to whro.org.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. As we said before, it's our spring membership drive, and we have a $2,000 challenge to meet in the next hour. That means if you call 800-940-7170 to become a member of WHRO Public Media between now and 1 o'clock, your pledge will be matched dollar for dollar up to $2,000. So if you love Another View and you want to see this show continue on the air, please join our family. We'd love to have you. Become a member. Go to whro.org or dial 800-940-7170 to join us. And we thank you so much. Two things really quickly happening in the community that I want to share with you. The World Culture Festival. It's this weekend, Saturday, March 25th from 11 until 6 p.m. Now, this is the Hampton Roads edition of the World Culture Festival. It's being held at the Virginia Beach Convention Center. And there's going to be all kinds of things. This is a wonderful event that you may want to go out. Multicultural, colorful dances and music from around the world. Multi-cuisine food, and all kinds of things that are happening. So you can go to worldculturefest.com/Hampton Roads, worldculturefest.com/Hampton Roads to find out more information. And ladies, young African-American women, if you have never picked up a racket and you want to learn how to play tennis, we have the opportunity for you. Join the courts for 7 weeks of group tennis clinics. Now, this is for young ladies ages 10 to 18. There's a application fee for all applicants, and it's free if you're new to the program. There is a fee for returning participants, and it's going to be happening all throughout Hampton Roads, from Norfolk to Hampton University, and then back to Norfolk. So go to blackgirlstennisclub.com/apply. blackgirlstennisclub.com/apply. That's a great way to spend your summer. So many of you may be unaware, but the majority of my broadcast career has been spent in television news management. I became the news director at WTKR here in Norfolk in 1994. At the time, I was the only African-American female news director in the top 50 broadcast markets. So our guest today and her book really resonate with me, as I was also considered a trailblazer in television news. Please welcome to Another View journalist, managing editor of the Richmond Free Press, and author Bonnie Newman Davis. Her book is called Truth Tellers: The Power and Presence of Black Women Journalists Since 1960. How you doing, Bonnie?
Hey, good morning, Barbara. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing just great. I am so excited to talk to you, because it's a kindred spirit. One, we've known each other for quite a while, and we've shared some of the same struggles in this business of journalism that we deal with.
Oh, yes, for sure. So we've got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely, we do. So the book is, I just literally finished the last chapter in the last half hour or so before we went on the air, but it is powerful. Truth Tellers, the Power and Presence of Black Women Journalists Since 1960. And I'm curious as to why you focused on women in media past the civil rights movement. What's special about this group of journalists?
Oh, my goodness, several things. And what comes to mind most immediately is the fact that, there was the Kerner Commission, which came about in 1968. President Johnson authorized that commission after all of the riots occurred in 1967 throughout the country, major cities. And thousands of people were involved in these riots, black and white, and many of them were killed. And as a result of that, and, these riots, of course, followed others that had occurred throughout the 1960s. And so one of the things that President Johnson, one of his concerns, and that of other people in the country as well, was that he wanted to know what was the root cause of it all. And so the Kerner Commission was authorized. And a year later, it came out in 1968, 2 months prior to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. And 4 months before Bobby Kennedy was killed. And so the study basically said that there were two Americas at play here. And one black and one white. And the media, the news media, mainstream media was to blame because it had so few black journalists or people of color in those newsrooms to go out and cover some of the problems or challenges that black people in this country were facing, such as poverty, housing, education, all sorts of things, of which are still prevalent in our community today. Sad as it is to say. And so as a result of that, there was a conscious effort to go out and recruit more black journalists. And even at that time, before the focus was on going into institutions, HBCUs and other colleges and universities, many news organizations looked right around their own newsrooms to see who was available. So you may have
and that was a struggle for them because they really didn't have people who were available.
Yeah, for sure. You may have had people working in the composing room or typesetting or admins, and all of a sudden they became journalists. I think Merv Ottisman is a good example out in Kentucky, who was working behind the scenes before he was sent out to cover, the black community. So, so that, in a sense, is the reason why. And in terms of women, that's a whole nother story because, of course, we had been invisible for so long. And although there were some in various mainstream news organizations, such as Dorothy Gilliam, who actually started at the Washington Post in, the early 1960s, and Marvell Cook, who I believe was at a newspaper in Ohio. But for the most part, many of us had been relegated to working for the black press. And that's not a negative by any means, because, without the black press,
we wouldn't have known what was going on in our communities for many years.
Sure.
And we'll talk about your involvement with the black press today. But in talking with the book, one thing that I noticed, Bonnie, and I know this is because of you being a journalist also, but you really spend a lot of time so there are 20, let me back up. There are 24 women that you highlight. And in each story, you spend a good deal of time really explaining the history and the context of what was happening through their ascension through the newsroom. I mean, so you detail the history of what was going on, what kinds of things were happening to black people. Why was that so important to you?
Oh, because it just helped frame the story. And because so many people don't know what was happening at that time. And when I say that, I think of young people because I taught for a long time at several universities. And so it's just important to have those historical points of reference, I think, to tell the story, to better tell the story for the reader. So, yeah, that was why. And also, I'll be honest, my editor suggested.
Well, you could also look at it too as we go forward, because a lot of the stories are contemporary. I mean, they are stories that we know because we are living it. But as time goes on and people look back at this, they're also going to be able to understand what was happening and have that perspective. Do you have any favorites? I know all of them are great, and I know you love all 24 of them, but did anybody really resonate with you?
Any of the women?
The women, book? Yes.
Oh, my goodness. No, I cannot say that I have any favorites, but I will say that Dorothy Gilliam for sure stands out, because I met Dorothy when I was in graduate school at the University of Michigan, and I was about to graduate and took a trip to Washington, D.C. to the NABJ conference, National Association of Black Journalists, and Dorothy was there. She reviewed my clips and told me that I had promise. So that really lifted and boosted my spirits a lot. And not soon after I graduated, I had a job in Richmond with the Richmond News Leader. And so Dorothy and we stayed in touch over the years, but I never really got a chance to get to know her that well until after she left the post. Of course, I'd see her at NABJ conventions because, she was president at one time. So I do feel a closeness, and there's a kindred spirit that exists between the two of us. And so she, I would say, is number one, just based on her stellar career and all of the things that she's had to go through and survive. I also like Norma Adams Wade a lot, because some of the things that she talks about in the book, growing up in Dallas, and always wanted to come home and work for the newspaper, the Dallas Morning News, which it was a struggle for her to get there, but she got there. But I think too, when you her life growing up, she describes it as being very plain, simple. Her father would read the evening newspaper every day, and her mom worked and, worked with the kids. I don't know that she worked outside the home.
Right.
But that really resonated with me, because that's how I kind of look at my own background. Not a lot of frills, just hardworking, working class parents who stayed focused in terms of raising their kids, going to church, being about community, those sorts of things. Yeah. And that's pretty typical of many of the women in the book as well. We all have somewhat similar background.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the struggles that women had? I know I noticed that you have a lot more people who are print than broadcast, but
no shame,
no shame there. But tell us some of the hardships that these women faced, because I don't think people really realize that it's more than just getting the job. It's being able to stay in the job and to function in the position once you get there.
Right. Probably a resounding theme would be being heard, being seen, being recognized, being respected. I think that all of the women in the book had to prove themselves over and over again in order to be recognized for their value and work, in terms of being promoted, in terms of being paid equally, or with equally, I would say. Mae Israel comes to mind. She actually grew up in my hometown in Greensboro and ended up at the Charlotte Observer and then going on to the Washington Post. And Mae has speech impediment.
Yeah,
and
she
so
stuttered.
That was, yes, she stutters. And while that could have been a huge stumbling block for her, she overcame it. I mean, she still stutters, but she didn't let it stop her. Mm-hmm. And even though it was pointed out to her when she decided to leave the Greensboro paper and go to Charlotte, one of the editors pretty much laughed at her and said, "You'll never make it, because of this impediment." It's such cruelty, really. I mean, why would anyone say that? A professional to someone. Mm-hmm. But she didn't let it stop her, of course. So that's one key example. Let's see, Sheila Solomon, who was there in your area with the Newport newspaper. She also went to Charlotte and eventually ended up at the Chicago Tribune. So I'm going to get emotional here. And that's one thing I will say in writing this book, which sometimes I would stay up 3-4 o'clock in the morning just trying to get everything, down. And I would just end up, crying.
Yeah.
Reading these stories and telling these stories because so many of them reminded me of some of the things that I've gone through too. But Sheila says something that really resonates with me in terms of being patient, because she feels like she was looked over several times in trying to be promoted and be respected and, get the top job, that kind of thing. It took her a while, but she did it.
It's interesting too, Bonnie, because what you see when you hear these women's stories is that we always talk on Another View about how the Black community is not a monolith, that we are individuals, as well as a collective. And these women handled their struggles in the newsroom in different ways. I mean, some of them confronted it straight on. Some of them, decided I'll just wait and bide my time. And some of them got out.
Yes. They were like, that's it. I'm gone.
Yeah. Some of them just said, you know what, I've had enough. And that's
Right. And even with Lynn Bonner, who left her home in Northern Virginia, Maryland, it's actually PG County. She was with the Post. That's when I met Lynn. But she just, Milton Coleman actually gave her some advice, saying sometimes you have to leave in order for people to appreciate you. And so that's exactly what she did, and got a job in Seattle with the Seattle Times. And just, she just flourished and became, one of the top editors on the editorial team. And now she's doing well. Once she did leave the newspaper, she's with one of the major universities out there now, and just adored.
So there are two organizations that you talk about in the book that truly helped all of the 24 women that you highlight, and that's the National Association of Black Journalists and also the Maynard Institute. And if you would talk a little bit about both of those organizations and why they were so critical then and where they are today in terms of our younger journalists.
Right. So with the Maynard Institute, which I believe started before NMBJ,
right.
Yeah, it was crucial in terms of helping to identify promising Black journalists, people to bring into the fold. And so it was formed shortly after the Kerner Commission report, I believe, and led by the late great Bob Maynard, who became publisher and owner of the Oakland Tribune, along with his wife, Nancy. And so many people went through that program over the years. I think it started out in New York. And so the book mentions people like Gay and Norma Adams Wade, Wanda Lloyd, and several others, excuse me, who went through Maynard and provided the training from copy editing to reporting, investigative journalism, ethics, all of the things needed in order for us to become, as great as we are, or as great as we could be. And so Denise Bridges, of course, went through that program, and she talks about it. Denise is the first woman in the book, first chapter.
Yes.
And Robin Farmer, who's also, she's here in Richmond, used to work with me at the Richmond Times-Dispatch. She's another Maynard prodigy. I think she trained with Kevin Meredith. So all those connections, yeah. So, it was and remains vital and crucial. I believe Felicia Henderson may be connected with Maynard in some way, some sort of way. Felicia was with the Detroit paper for a number of years. Her and she, her late husband
Angela
Henderson. So, yes. And then, of course, NABJ, which was formed in 1975, same philosophy in terms of bringing in Black journalists and training them to go into these newsrooms. And I've been a member of NABJ like forever.
Me too. Me too.
Everyone.
But newspapers had, in particular, in the beginning, had an issue with wanting to know why their Black employees would want to join NABJ. They weren't exactly welcoming.
They were not, and fortunately, I can remember, when I was I worked at both the Richmond News Leader and the Times-Dispatch, and I can remember requesting to go to NABJ maybe back in 81, 82, not long after I joined the paper, and my editor said to me, well, you can go as long as you don't get recruited. That's another newspaper, and I just sort of looked at him like, who are you talking to? Because, again, that was one of the purposes of the organization.
Exactly.
People, that's where the recruiters went. They went there to find, journalists.
And the recruiters went there, and also the journalists, and I know for those of us in management, for me in particular, being able to be around a Gary Wordlaw or Drew Barry and other news directors at the time, because there were so few of us that you didn't have anybody to bounce things off of or to talk to or to say, am I crazy that this is happening? Am I reading this right? And so it really was a professional camaraderie that I think it would be hard pressed to find in a lot of places. Oh, yes, for sure. It was a meeting of the minds. It was a place to go and to be refreshed each year, and it still is. Just something that was very much needed for us because we were so isolated in our newsrooms. In my newsrooms, I can't remember there ever being more than 5-6 Black people in a newsroom, which at the time may have had, more than approximately maybe 150 to 200. See, that's why I think people don't get the perspective. I'm glad you said that, because when you look at the staff overall, and then you look at how few, people of color, Black folks in particular, are in the newsroom, and actually, and then when you go into the decision-making portion of it, the management portion, it's even smaller. Yeah, for sure. So that is always. And when we come back after we go to our break to talk about Pledge for just a little bit, we're going to talk about someone from Hampton Roads who is in the book. Wonder who that might be. Absolutely. But we are talking with Bonnie Newman Davis about her new book, Truth Tellers, The Power and Presence of Black Women Journalists Since 1960. And before we continue our conversation, let me check in with Lisa Godley and find out how we're doing on our pledge and meeting our goal of exceeding that $2,000 match.
It's a little low right now.
Okay.
We've raised about $260.
Okay.
So we need to encourage folks to really jump in there and We we don't want to lose that match money, because that match money is a good thing to have.
Absolutely. And so you can help us to reach our goal. And, another of you listeners, you guys come through every single time. So I'm not worried, but I am encouraging you to pick up the phone right now and give us a call at 800-940-7170. That's the number to make your pledge. I know a couple of you have called the comment line to talk about our show that we're talking about today with Bonnie Newman Davis, but we need you to call a special number to make your pledge of support, and that is 800-940-7170. If you call between now and 1 o'clock, your gift will be matched dollar for dollar up to $2,000. I know many of our listeners are sustainers, which means you're already in the system, but if you'd like to increase your donation, that would be wonderful. Or if you'd like to just make a one-time gift just because you're feeling good today because it's 70 degrees outside.
Nice day.
And it's a nice day, we'll take that too. But give us a call, 800-940-7170. If you're streaming us on your computer, just, open up a new tab and go on over to WHRO.org and hit the donate button. And that's all you have to do. You can take it from there and make sure you click that you're supporting Another View. Lisa, what are some of the challenges that you have in terms of producing this show?
Well, it depends on what the topic is. It seems like the shows that create the greatest challenges, like when we're like logistically even, we were recently in Edenton,
yes,
North Carolina. That was our first out-of-state live broadcast. It came together incredibly well.
Yes.
People are still stopping me on the street talking about that Edenton broadcast, and we're very excited. But a lot of planning had to go into that. We had to go up to down to North Carolina, test things, make sure we could get a good signal, talk to people there. It was just a whole lot of preparation to make sure we could pull that off, and we did. But I love, me, I'm all about being out in the community. I love when we do those live broadcasts, but a lot of work goes into it.
And I was going to say, because those seem to be a lot of our really popular shows too, and we love being in the community. We love having the audience come in and be with us at a location. We were in Hampton last summer with the Buffalo Soldiers,
right?
And we've been to Fort Monroe, and we've been to, we've done several that have been live broadcasts. And then we're live in the studio every Thursday at noon. So if you love what you are listening to, if what people tell me in the street, which is I get a chance to hear a conversation I would not normally be privy to. If that means something to you, then please become a member. 800-940-7170. That's the number to call. Join our family. Become a member. Send us ideas. Tell us what you want to hear on the air. What topics mean something to you. Because when you become a member, that becomes really, really important to you.
Absolutely. We stream, our show is streamed all over the country, and there's a reason. There are pockets of listeners all over the United States that tune in each Thursday at noon to listen to Another View. We were bringing them something that they would normally not get, and we're very pleased to do that. But we want you to support what you love and make sure we can continue to do that. So pick up the phone, give us a call. 1-800-940-7170, and make your support what you love.
Absolutely. And we do have a $2,000 challenge, which means that if you call between now and 1 o'clock, matched dollar for dollar up to $2,000. So if you give us $100, that's $200. Okay. If you give us $50, that's $100. You get the drift. 800-940-7170. That's the number to call. In the meantime, we're going to go back and continue our conversation with author and journalist and managing editor of the Richmond Free Press, Bonnie Newman Davis. She has a new book out. It's called Truth Tellers: The Power and Presence of Black Women Journalists Since 1960. Lisa, I'll check in with you in just a little bit. So, Bonnie.
Yes.
Back to you.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi there. So we do have a person in your book who is from Hampton Roads. You want to tell us about her?
Well, there is a lot to say about this woman. I've known Barbara at least 20 years now. Met her through NABJ. She was the regional director, and I was president of the Richmond chapter, National Association of Black Journalists. And so we instantly connected. She was there to help me out on so many levels, and just, an extraordinary woman, person, and human being. I can't speak enough about Barbara.
Absolutely. We're talking about Barbara Sierra, who is the managing editor and anchor at my old station, WTKR News 3.
Yes. And so you both are so beloved in that area. And I just salute you and commend you for all that you've done for that Hampton Roads community. Barbara, I recently was in her company at Norfolk State University, and she just exudes this calm that, I wish I could have on any given day. Just always so professional and on top of her game, and knows what to do, knows how to pivot, and you'll never see her sweat. And her story is incredible in the book. There's so much in there that even though I'd known her for quite a while, I didn't even know about her early life and having a child at an early age, and going off and pursuing her career and just not paying attention to the naysayers and all of that good stuff. And she knew her purpose, and she went after it and continued to climb. And so she is someone that I think readers will enjoy learning about, because she's an open book anyway.
Absolutely. She doesn't hold back. She doesn't hold. Yeah. So, Bonnie, how did you pick the 24? Because there's so many. I mean, it's a good thing that there are a lot of people, but how did you pick these 24?
Well, I get that question a lot. And so having served, back to NABJ, having served on the board myself as a regional director, I was in the company of several of the women at least 3-4 times a year when we would meet for quarterly board meetings. And so you have, again, Lynn Bonner, who was a board member with me, Barbara, who was a natural choice, of course, because I did want to include broadcast journalists. I didn't want it to be all print. So I just, I was.
And Barbara was the former president of NABJ.
Former president of NABJ. So just very thoughtful about whose stories would stand out most. So there are 2 women from Richmond, Stacey Adams and Robin Farmer, both print. I'd worked with them at the Times-Dispatch, and I knew their stories, so I knew that they would be interesting as well. Diane Walker is the only broadcast journalist from Richmond who's in the book, and she's well known. Many of them former presidents of NABJ or founders, such as Norma Adams Wade. Sonia Ross I'd met through NABJ when we would judge contests together. And I knew she had worked for the Associated Press, but that's about all I knew. And to later find out that she was on board during 9/11, she was with the press pool. Yes.
Yeah, that was an incredible story. She actually was in the press pool with the president when he was in Florida, talking to the young kids when the World Trade Center was being attacked.
Right.
And that was incredible.
Oh, I wanted, an array of women from various geographical regions as well. So Cassandra Spratling, who is in the book, she was my roommate when we were in grad school at the University of Michigan. And all Cassandra ever talked about was going home and working for her hometown paper, the Detroit Free Press, which is what she did. That was her number one goal. And so I was just always so impressed with her tenacity, her devotion, and her ethics, and all of these things. I mean, she just championed journalism to the fullest. And so I just, always learned so much just by watching her.
Yeah.
And so she definitely had to be in the book.
One thing I noticed that so all the women that you feature were successful professionally, but they all had a personal struggle that, and particularly when it came to marriage and children and so forth. Why do you think it's so hard for us Black women in media in particular to be able to balance both the career and the personal side?
Because the job, it just takes so much time. It really does. Even now with me, having been out of the daily or weekly newsroom cycle and to go back and work for a weekly paper, it just sucks up so much of your time, even more so now, because even though we have all these tools, technology and everything to double check and spell check, and it's time consuming. And if you want to do it right, some of the things are going to have to be left by the wayside.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I've missed so many family celebrations through the years, weddings, Christmas dinners, because when I started out working, I had to work holidays, right? You have to work your way up until you get those days off that are consistent, and not be off on a Thursday and not having another day off until a Sunday. Those are your 2 days that you were off. That's crazy, right? But that was the deal. So I think all of those things combined, I think finding a spouse who is understanding, who realizes what it takes and what you're going through. Fortunately, my second husband, who is deceased, but he fully understood the job and really supported me and was always there with me. I have one daughter, and her grandmother kept her. So I didn't have to worry about child care or anything like that. And I, owe a lot to them. And I attribute my success and ability to be able to, work as hard as I did and continue to do now. So, I
understand, because I was a single parent, and I remember bringing my daughter into the newsroom and having her in her little carrier by my desk while we were covering breaking news. I mean, it was crazy back in those times. But you're right. Without the support of family, and a spouse who understands, because it is difficult. So you and my husband are actually graduates of North Carolina A&T State University.
Yes,
Aggie Pride. And I was in Greensboro at Bennett at the same time that you guys were at A&T. And I remember Sandra Day Hughes being on TV with her talk show and delivering the news. But I did not know until reading her story how much the community attacked her and did not want this Black woman to be on television.
Yeah. Tragic. I mean, yes. And I didn't know either, because I'd left. I left Greensboro in 1979, and Sandra was still on the air then. But I remember when she came aboard in the early 70s. But you would never have known it. Black people were excited. All the Black women, all the Black men. You never would have known what she was going through in terms of white audiences. But so it's pretty sad, and it took years, I think, before a lot of that just sort of, dissipated. Now she's a rock star.
Absolutely. And you talked about another reporter who was stopped so frequently by the police that she, in one particular stop, she wound up calling the police officer's supervisor because she was afraid. The police on the police. I mean,
yes, that was Diane Walker, who's here in Richmond. Also, Diane retired almost a couple of years ago from Channel 12, NBC 12. But I was horrified to learn about her story. I never knew what she went through. I knew about her brother being killed, and she was ferocious in terms of determining who the killer was, who murdered her brother. And that in and of itself is a testament to the will and how the media can, be used for good.
Yeah, I think the thing that people don't realize also too, so you're facing all of this, you're facing backlash from your colleagues, from the community, and at the end of the day, at 6:00 or by deadline for the newspaper, you had to perform and you had to deliver.
Yes, and in front of the cameras, which is why I admire broadcast journalists so much, because I am not one who could put on a smile and go in front of those cameras on a regular. So
yeah, it is something that you had to do.
Yes.
So you're the managing editor of the Richmond Free Press, which is the black newspaper in Richmond, right?
Yes. I am.
How and you've also worked in mainstream media. So my question to you is, how is the black press doing today? And what do you say to those who claim it is no longer relevant?
Oh, my goodness. That is so crazy. Anyone who would say that doesn't know what he or she is talking about, because the black press is and always has been very relevant. From Ebony, Essence, Black Enterprise, Jet, although those publications aren't still in print. Black Enterprise maybe, I'm not sure, in Essence. But it's just, been the recorder of our lives, the black press. And had there not been a black press, so much of our history, our stories wouldn't exist. And if they did, others told them. And as we know, when others tell you a story, there's often not the accuracy there. So today, I think the black press is more relevant than ever. And it is my honor to be working for the Richmond Free Press, which is a 31-year-old black weekly, black-owned newspaper here in Virginia. And it's full circle for me also, because one of the first articles I ever had published was in the Carolina Peacemaker in Greensboro, North Carolina, which was run by the late Dr. John Kilimanjaro, and it's still in existence too. So with the demise of many mainstream newspapers, or all of the mergers and downsizing that has occurred really over the last 20 years, it's really special that these black newspapers, black publications, are still here, still surviving, even those that are online, such as The Root, which is starting to be a legacy news organization on its own. The Root has been around now for at least 15, 16 years or more. TheGrio.com, Black America Web.com, which I was one of the editors for it in its early days as well, working with Tom Joyner and Dwayne Wickham, and Roland, I think, had left by then. But people like that. So these are important publications. And you also have the Atlanta Daily World, the Chicago, I can't think of the name of the black paper.
Is that the Defender?
Defender, yeah. Right. I was in Atlanta over the weekend at the airport coming back to Richmond, and saw where the Atlanta Daily World has its own store, a standalone.
Oh, wow.
A bookstore or something. So I wanted to go in there so bad, but I had to.
You had to get on your flight.
Keep it moving.
So,
but that was exciting to see.
So, do you guys?
I wanted to add really quickly
sure.
that I noticed with our daily newspaper here, the Times Dispatch, where I used to work, continues to shrink. And the Sunday paper, you will see 3 main stories, and that's pretty much it. The rest are ads or whatever. The Free Press, which comes out weekly, we have at least 5 stories on the front page each week. I handle about almost 100 pieces of copy on a regular basis each week. Headlines, photos, articles, assignments, I do it all. I have a lot of help, some great help. Most of the people have been there 30 years or more since the paper started. So I'm the newbie. But we make it happen, and we make it work.
So how do we get Black people and beyond Black people, more people, let me just say it that way, to support Black press? To get a subscription to like the New Journal and Guide, which is our paper here in the Hampton Roads area. But do you all struggle with trying to get support from the community?
Now that I really can't answer, because I hear good things a lot from the community. I think the support is there. We have, ads that they are on a regular basis. We could always use more. We're not turning anything down. But I hear it more and more, I hear from people how grateful and thankful that they are that the Free Press is here.
Yeah. Do you find that it's easier for you to work in that environment as opposed to the mainstream newsrooms you were in? Or is it different in some way?
Yeah, it's definitely easier. One, because I work from home. I'm remote.
Well, then there's that. Yes.
Yes, I go in once a week or when needed, but production night is Wednesday nights, and that's when I'll go in. And, the camaraderie and all of that is great. So, because it was a struggle, just to have to get up and go into the office back in the day and be surrounded by people constantly, some who didn't necessarily work. They just sort of hung around and drank coffee and
questioned your ability.
Right.
And questioned your ability. So, Bonnie, one thing I noticed in the book also is that all of the majority of the women, well, first, everybody had a degree, but so many of you, including yourself, have advanced degrees. And pretty much at a time when it was more about your experience and how many news articles you'd written or how many stories you'd done on TV. But you all took that extra step. Was that yet another way to try to gain parity in the newsroom when it wasn't happening?
I don't know. I think, again, it was part of the push back then for our colleges and universities, professors, people who knew what it would take to get into these newsrooms and stay. Because I can, a lot of students, my classmates who started out and were writing for the school newspaper and doing all these things you do, I'm probably one of just a handful who actually stayed the course and kept writing and, went to work for newspapers and got my master's and all of those good things. I think that because the degree, I think it was necessary in a lot of ways just to show these news organizations who they were working with, what they were getting, that kind of thing. I noticed, I'm trying to think, because there was a core group of us who also were Dow Jones interns. Right. And we're going to get together this year, as a matter of fact. And so, but most of us went to graduate school. There was Trudy Moore, who went to Howard undergrad, and I believe Trudy got her master's at Northwestern, if I'm not mistaken. She went on to work for Jet and Ebony. So, that's a good question. And I think it was just part of the process of more fully preparing us. But at A&T, I probably could have come out because I had an internship with the Wilmington newspaper, and I'd worked for the Greensboro Daily News my senior year. So I probably could have gotten a job, but the opportunity to go to Michigan was there. I applied. I saw the notice on the bulletin board. So that was all of it.
They just took advantage of it.
Yeah, I got a full ride, did not have to pay. But at the same time, prior to that, A&T, Richard Moore was bringing in, he was one of the professors who went on to become a vice president of external relations at A&T. He actually went to Norfolk State, so he's well known down there. But he made sure that these high-powered professionals came to A&T to meet with us and to talk with us on the regular. Yeah.
So we got about a little less than 3 minutes left. What do you see? You also teach, and many of the journalists in the book have gone into the classroom. What do you see for the future of journalism? How are young folks doing?
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of the young people migrating to strategic communications and broadcast. We don't see as many of them going into print, and that is discouraging because we need good writers, we need good editors, we need all of that goes into writing, reporting, because there are so many issues out there. And I just, I'm always looking when hiring freelancers and that kind of thing. It's tough because I know that I don't have a lot of time to train people. So it takes a while. As far as that's another tough question. When I work with students in the classroom, I try to give them a broad-based experience in terms of going out into the community and making sure you have more than one source in a story.
Yeah.
And all of the fact-checking and spell-checking and all of the tools that you need to be successful.
I tell you, I served as an adjunct at 2 universities, and the one thing that concerned me in the last minute that we have here, that concerned me was the fact that so many of them were not consumers of news. And so, and they were in journalism classes, and
right.
and so I was trying to figure out where's the disconnect. What is this going on? So, where can people find Truth Tellers: The Power and Presence of Black Women Journalists Since 1960?
Yes, well, the book is available on Amazon.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to order the book from me directly, because it is self-published. And hopefully to be picked up by a mainstream publisher at some point. But Bonnie Newman Davis .com is my website.
Okay.
Yep.
Bonnie, thank you so much for spending time with us on Another View. We really appreciate it, and thank you for this book. I really am grateful.
That is wonderful.
All right.
I'm so glad you've enjoyed it, and please continue to share the word.
Will do. Take care now.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Lisa, where are we?
I am so excited, and I am just, you know what? I love our Another View listeners. They are just an awesome group. We love you guys to death. During the 1 hour, we have raised $9,097.
Oh my goodness. Come on. We can make that $10,000. We are so close. 800-940-7170. Give us a call, please. And thank you so much to all of you who demonstrated your love of Another View by becoming a member of WHRO Public Media. We so appreciate you, especially the fact that you support Another View. Now, there's still time to join our family. Call 800-940-7170 or go to WHRO.org and make your pledge of support there. Next week on Another View, cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby with Another View on Health. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. You still have time. Call 800-940-7170 and tell the volunteer you love Another View. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.